All right. Here we are. Just another day in the lifetime. This is, of course, the Hodo Show and the other Viewpoint. So I want you to stay locked in because tonight, we're going to cover some things. Our topic for the night is the old isn't new, but the new could be better. The old isn't new, but the new could be better. So stay locked in. We'll be right back at you momentarily. So don't touch anything because our time is running out. But yet, we still do our best to overcome it. You know that, right? All right. Again, this is the Hodo Show and the other Viewpoint. And I, yes I, am your brother, if there is no other. I'm Hodo. Who are you? We'll be right back after the music.
You tuned in to WGOD on the 7-day station, beholding the manifestation. It's time to renew your mind and rise.
This is the Hodo Show and the other Viewpoint, and I am your brother, if there is no other. I'm Hodo. Who are you? Caller, you on the air? Can you handle it? I don't think you really want to know. I'll tell you later. Caller, you on the air? Thank you, little brother. Not only is the beat on time, but it also has something for your mind. Because we've been waiting to get together for so long, but we just couldn't seem to find the right song to come together on. Caller, you on the air?
We just a step to the right. Come on, we just a step to the left. Yeah, we just say not break it down. We just say not rise it up. Not rise. Not rise.
Here's another hot joint for the 004. Legion!
All my queens, put your hands in the air. All my kings, put your hands in the air. All my queens, put your hands in the air. All my kings, put your hands in the air. Now walk with me.
Joint for the 004. Legion!
Pat your pocket. Are you still broke?
It's time to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise.
Pat your pocket.
It's time to rise.
Are you
It's
still
time to
broke?
rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. U-N-I-T-Y. 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 U-N-I-T-Y.
It's time
to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. It's time to rise. U-N-I-T-Y.
All right, it's time to rise, y'all. Again, welcome back to the Hodo Show and the Other Viewpoint. And I am your brother. If there is no other, I'm Hodo. Who are you? Well, tonight's topic is the old isn't new, but the new could be better. So, as we see what's going on in the world and hearing about all these great things and horrific things that have been happening, even in the 2021, we wonder, as we see some old things that have been going on for centuries, and we hear about some old folks coming back to run for political office, and some that are in political office are still doing the old things, can they make this a new, better thing? Can they make it better? And I say this because, like, for instance, here in the city of Detroit, former Deputy Mayor Anthony Adams has announced that he's running for mayor. Now, he was the deputy mayor during the Kilpatrick area. Now, during that era, you heard a whole lot about Kilpatrick, but you didn't hear very much about Anthony Adams. You didn't hear about him getting caught up in anything. So is that a good thing? And possibly, well, I'm not going to put forth all of the questions about it, because I may very well do my best to get an interview. Hopefully Anthony is watching, or some of you out there who are friends with Anthony Adams will invite him and give him my business number, which is 313-685-6777. I would love to interview Anthony Adams in his quest for mayorship of the city of Detroit, as he goes up against current mayor Mike Duggan. So what do you guys have to say about that? And who else is running for mayor? Who else is throwing their hat in the city of Detroit for mayor? Also, you have a guy that's announced that he's going to run against Governor Gretchen Whitmer next year. And here he is. Hopefully you can see him. And 35-year-old Austin Chenge is from Grand Rapids, and he's a businessman. I'd like to interview him as well. And he's running as a Republican, though. So these kind of things are coming. And I just wonder, is change going to happen with those that you've seen from the past? Or will change happen with those who you have never seen before, but with the same old mentality? How will things get better? Can it be better? It could be, but will it be? So I'm going to start things off first to kind of see where you guys lay, because I know a lot of you guys out there are against Bill Gates. Y'all have been looking at all that conspiracy theory stuff on YouTube and all these frustrated folks come up with these things, but they never let you know how they found out the information. They never let you know exactly where they got it from. You know, they've talked about Dr. Fauci, and they've talked about how Bill Gates and Fauci together in the 90s got together to create the coronavirus. Really. What I know of Bill Gates is that he's been a philanthropist, and I know that he did his thing with Microsoft. I also know that he's given away a whole lots of his money, and that he actually helped my alma mater, Persian High School, at one time where he gave them computers, even though the state came and messed it up later on when the Governor Snyder took over and they crushed the Detroit Public Schools and dismantled that program where Bill Gates had donated all those computers. So let me let you hear a little something from Bill Gates himself, and we'll be back after that and see what you have to say about it. And you can call in here at 313-334-5909. That's 313-334-5909. And also we have to let you know that this particular program is being brought to you by none other than RCE Notary. That's RCE Notary. Open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Look, you need that document stamped to make sure that it's credible. You need to have some verification. Well, if you're in the Michigan area, RCE Notary is the one you call. And you can call them at 248-861-9212. 248-861-9212. RCE Notary, look, you need those documents to be that which is legitimate. RCE Notary, that's the one that notarizes for you. Give them a call again, 248-861-9212, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. In the Michigan area, hey, preferably southeastern Michigan, Wayne County, Oakland County, and Detroit, hey, that's who you call, RCE Notary. All right, we're going to let you hear a little something from Bill Gates, and then we'll come back, and I'll have some more things for you right here on the Hodo Show and the other Viewpoint.
And welcome to our exclusive interview with Bill Gates, the entrepreneur, Microsoft co-founder, software developer, and philanthropist. Thanks for being here.
Great to talk to you.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's annual letter is now just come out. You both write about how this pandemic, in your view, will be as defining as World War II. What are the key steps to take right now?
Well, we have to do two things at once. We have to bring this epidemic to an end, primarily by getting the vaccine out in large numbers to the entire world. And we have to make sure that we're ready because there will be another pandemic. And there's so many lessons about how we weren't prepared, how we should have handled things differently. And, you know, when that's clearly in our mind, those investments need to be made.
You mentioned being ready for the next time, and you warned about this last time. Let's take a brief look at a 2015 warning you issued.
If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus. If we start now, we can be ready for the next epidemic.
How ready was the world for this, say on a scale of 1 to 10, and how about the U.S.?
The U.S. gets a low score because the understanding of how to get diagnostics up to scale early to stop the exponential spread. You know, if that had been done well, we would have been more like an Australia or a South Korea, where the death toll is less than a tenth of the tragic situation in the United States. So we made mistakes before the epidemic in not investing more. And then during the epidemic, we also made mistakes. There's one category we did well, which was getting R&D money out to the vaccine companies. The U.S. was the biggest at that. And so at least, in that one area where we've set a model for the world.
You're very specific in your work and the letter about what should come next. You talk about a global alert system, infectious disease first responders, and germ games. Walk us through what some of that looks like and whether you think international organizations and the Biden administration can do more on that now.
Well, the great thing is that the tens of billions required for all that preparedness, it's the insurance policy that avoids you losing tens of trillions like we are globally right now. And so it's quite a bargain, even if you only look at what it can do to help during a pandemic. But those investments can also help us improve health on a much broader basis. So the mRNA vaccine can be used for TB and HIV. We're very excited about that. And we've been funding mRNA for over 10 years, and now it's, accelerated its development. And getting those early warning systems in, that'll improve health all over the world. So this time, I think people will pay attention.
Your letter also goes really through a whole bunch of influences, from the movie Contagion to Winston Churchill to you and your wife's interest in confronting systemic racism and structural racism. And you write that pandemics, quote, exploit pre-existing inequalities. And you're working and doing funding with historically black colleges on testing. Walk us through, what does this mean? Why does it happen this way? Does it have to be this way? And how do you fix it?
Well, it's pretty stunning that the infection rate and death rate in minorities has been over twice as high. And that really wouldn't have been expected. In fact, we need to understand it a lot better. It's partly multi-generational households. It's partly job occupation. It may have been the ability to communicate health messages in to those households. I'm stunned at that. Sadly, I'm not stunned with the idea that the inner city schools were the least prepared with internet connections and training in order to do online education. And so the gap between the suburban schools and the inner city schools, which was already very large and a terrible inequity, it's been more dramatic in this last year than ever. And so we've got to reinvest in those schools, taking some of the good things we've learned about how we can use online tools, but helping those kids catch up.
Mr. Gates, trying to warn about pandemics and then protect people's lives during them doesn't sound that controversial. But as you know, and I think some of our viewers know, you have a lot of critics, including, for example, here's a Fox News host who is attacking you for advocating contact tracing in April. Take a look.
There's a new threat to our rights on the horizon, and it's being pushed by the second wealthiest man in the world. According to Gates, the only way to responsibly end these shutdowns is for a pretty vast surveillance system to be put in place, arguing that it will be unsafe to work or to travel or go to church or a ball game unless we give up our personal data. Well, I haven't seen the scientific proof for any of that.
Is that a fair assessment of what you're trying to do, and what's your response?
This $69 monocular telescope allows you to see everything from miles away, like you are standing next to it.
Well, contact tracing was incredibly beneficial in places like South Korea. And, we'd have hundreds of thousands of people alive today in the U.S. if we had done that. The data, you don't actually have to give up your personal data. That's not a fair way of describing it. Some societies really chose to make that work. Sadly, because of our mistakes in diagnostics, our numbers got so large that even the states that made an effort, the benefits of the contact tracing wasn't gigantic. So it's really as you get down in, lower infection rates, like 3-4%, then the contact tracing helps drive that down even lower.
When you look at that kind of disagreement or attack, do you see it as just ignorant or also malicious? Because there's a lot on the internet, the stuff that's not true, we're not giving airtime to, but that tries to rope you into something.
Yeah, so both myself and Dr. Fauci have featured in conspiracy theories. You know, like one says that Dr. Fauci's trying to make money off of these vaccines and various negative things about me. You're encouraging people not to trust the advice on masks or taking the vaccine, and that could be damaging. It's a new phenomena. I don't know, will it hurt the vaccine uptake where everyone who takes the vaccine is not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal. It's a completely unexpected phenomena. And, sadly, a lot of it's based on false information.
Yeah, just one follow-up on that, which is you're known to be both effective and an optimist. What do you say to people who look at this and feel like scientists, experts, and you warned and gave the public information, and by your own assessment today, it still didn't go very well according to the government policies in charge, and you're out here still working on it? What do you say to people who are pessimistic about either failure or incompetence and lies winning out?
Well,
How to get super fast Wi-Fi anywhere, anytime in 6 seconds. Internet providers don't want you to...
Whenever you make mistakes, you have to learn from them. And the U.S. has so much talent, so much ability to get things right, so much ability to lead the world and help. And almost every infectious disease event of the last 100 years, the U.S. Played a very strong role. The CDC is the most respected health organization. In this one, we didn't set a good example, and we even withdrew from the WHO. So, it wasn't our finest hour. But I remain optimistic, and I look at the new team that's engaged, looking at the science, being willing to deliver the bad news that the next few months are going to continue to be tough. And, I feel great that we're correcting some of the mistakes that were made.
You mentioned the new team. Was President Biden right to rejoin the WHO? And have you spoken to him recently, or will you?
I spoke to him, Melinda and I, soon after the election, and the pandemic was definitely one of the key topics there. And we're thrilled that he's rejoined the WHO, because that's where you share best practices. That's where you make sure the numbers are there to see what's going on. For example, understanding these variants that are a bit scary because they are more transmissive, and we'll get data soon on whether the vaccines are slightly less effective or not. And so, yes, it's kind of a common sense move to bring the world together, because it's us versus the disease. And every one of these vaccines involved scientists in many countries, and the trials were done in many countries. No country alone could possibly deal with this.
In the letter, you discuss how so many people are struggling, so many people grieving because of COVID, and you yourself discuss not even being able to gather in person for your father when he died in September. He was famously proud of you, and people like myself from Seattle know about his work and yours. And I did just want to play a little bit of him, if you don't mind us showing this.
Right.
Let me introduce Bill Gates, the largest philanthropist in the history of the world.
How do you feel when you're able to introduce him at something?
There are no words to describe it. How much pride can you have? Whatever the highest number is, that's where I am.
Your reflections and what he taught you?
Well, my dad both, set a good example, and was always willing to tell me when he thought I should do better. He personally, with Patty Stonecipher, helped create the foundation while I was still full-time at Microsoft. And so his integrity really set the culture of that organization. my dad's example is one that I'll never match, but he made so much difference, and he was always cheering me on. Loved the fact he was involved, and so it's sad. He lived a great life. He was 94 when he died, and so we did have to limit that getting together and sharing our thoughts and our grief. But no one's ever been luckier in terms of who their dad was.
He worked with you and your family on really beginning to think about and give away so much of the wealth you created, which was because you were really good at business, among other things. I have a very simple question for you, Mr. Gates. When we look at the 4 largest companies in America, we have Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Apple. Why are they all tech companies?
I'm biased. I think technology has done amazing things. Obviously, it's, we've got to have rules about it, but wow, the magic of software, the internet, the ability to look at data, let scientists collaborate, technology has done some phenomenal things. And so, my whole life I've been evangelizing that, let's take advantage of it to improve education, to improve health. There's a lot more to be done, but there's a lot of amazing work those companies are responsible for. And up until my foundation work, that was my whole focus was that work, and it continues.
Yeah, you were celebrated for it. The company famously took heat for it. I'm curious, as we look out today, the government definitely went at Microsoft for alleged anti-competitive behavior. We're not here to relitigate all that today, but there's a lot of informed people who look at the big tech companies today and think they're not getting it as hard as you did. Do you think today's CEOs know how lucky they may be, and will that change?
It's Aspen Dental's Everyday.
As you go forward, there are a lot of questions. Microsoft wasn't in the social media business, where issues about political things and conspiracies and how should you draw the line on what's on there. The tech companies are so important now. It's not surprising that the governments are looking at competition, interoperability, so there are lessons. There are things that Microsoft learned as we interface with the government. I hope the others go back and look at how that all went. But it makes sense for government to care a lot about the central role of technology and making sure that we get more of the good and less of the bad.
That brings us to something that I really want to ask you about. I have a hunch you may not want to answer it much, but you're so influential in these areas, I'm going to try anyway. And that is the power of these social media companies to publish or delist and ban people is huge. And as you know, the original concern hundreds of years ago was that the government would disappear speech. That a lot of people, especially young people, who are more concerned about where they are online than anything the federal government might do. Are you at all concerned when tech companies can make basically unchecked decisions to take people off their platforms, that they might get the call right a lot, but then not? Any advice or thoughts on that?
There's clearly trade-offs involved where, false information, that, causes riots or people not to trust medicines or rewrites, history like Holocaust denial. How you draw the line and who's in a position to do that is a great thing for people to be debating. I haven't seen a great solution where you draw the line in a way that everybody feels comfortable with who's doing the interpretation and how it works. There's been a lot of bad stuff on social media, and, I'm glad at least some of that is being held back. As you say, you might go too far, but, my tech career is largely over. Now, I'm a champion for health, And this next generation's got to solve this problem.
Yeah, understood. You've always been your own boss, but you also have a little bit of a style that is sometimes called being boss. The difference being, as you know, not whether you're technically the boss, but whether you have that confidence. And we were looking through the archives and we found a great example of this, a young Mr. Gates explaining his outlook. Take a look.
Can you see yourself working for somebody else?
I never have.
Can you see it?
Well, in the sense that we work together, but
answering to a boss.
I'm used to having a company where the ideas that I have are something that I can easily pursue. So I think it'd be a tough transition.
How important was your confidence in addition to your innovation in your career?
Well, certainly when I was young, I had the brashness of youth to pursue ideas that seemed crazy at the time. A computer on every desk in every home, the central role of software. And, turned out that those beliefs really worked out very well. And that's why I have the wealth that now goes to the foundation and, is there to try and provide healthy lives, even in the poorest countries. So, I'm lucky. My interests, my personality, my timing all came together. So the Microsoft fortune, is now being given away as best as Melinda and I can.
Before we lose you, I got to ask you about your role in music and culture. I read that you and Melinda like Willie Nelson and The Sound of Music. But the genre where you are cited most is hip hop. Over 125 songs cite you, Mr. Gates, including Lil Wayne's Bill Gates and Rick Ross's Bill Gates. And the common theme here is a lot of rappers from humble roots say they're inspired by both your work ethic and your success. I wanted to ask you about just 3 of them, where you could tell us whether, yes, they got it accurate, or maybe no, they're a little off. And the first is from Andre 3000. And he says what he likes about you is that you do not show off your wealth. He says Bill Gates don't dangle diamonds in your face when he Microsoft in the place. Accurate or no?
Well, lyrics aren't, the ultimate full description of people. I kind of doubt. I'm very lucky. I sometimes, fly in a plane. I have, I don't have to worry about whether I'm going to have enough money for things like kids' education. So, I hope I'm taking some responsibility for the lucky position I am in by giving my time to the foundation.
But Andre seems to like that he doesn't think you're showy.
Well, I'll try to live up to that. I don't try to be showy.
Here's one about tax policy. This is from young New York rapper Joey Badass. He says, just had to pay like 60 stacks in taxes. Why they take a piece of my assets? Does Bill Gates have these same fees? Please, I need the answers. Is it accurate? Do some wealthy people avoid their fair share?
I paid over $10 billion in taxes, and I think you could have a progressive tax system where people in my position would have paid more. Obviously you can go to an extreme where you hurt the incentives, but the U.S. is far short of that. And on my Gates notes, you can see some thoughts about making U.S. taxes more progressive. But I'm just one voter in that question.
And then finally, I'd love to do a lightning round where I say a word to you and you give us your thoughts in a sentence or a word, and people can see you're concise. So I don't think this will be hard for you. In a word or a sentence, 2020.
Recovery.
2021.
Normalcy.
Your microwave dinners that we've heard about.
Very dry.
And what your next TED Talk might be about.
My 2010 TED Talk was about climate change. So climate change and pandemics are where I'm trying to help the world get good plans so we don't suffer the huge consequences.
Well, I want to thank you.
All right. So, for those who've been slamming Bill Gates, from listening to his own words, I mean, it seems like from what I heard, I can't speak for any of you out there, but from what I heard, he's been doing a lot of work to help people, giving away a lot of his own money, and he's paid his taxes, as well as he's been trying his best to just warn folks so that this kind of stuff could have been curbed, this pandemic thing. Because I did see the conference that he and Barack Obama, then president, did on pandemics. Because I guess kind of sort of from that conference they had and some of the other things dealing with the H1N1 and some of those other pandemics that hit during the time when Barack Obama was in, caused him and his people to write the pandemic playbook that Trump threw in the corner and never used. So if you, after hearing Bill Gates' own words, still come up with this conspiracy stuff and all of this stuff, my question to you would be, where are your facts? Where did you get the information that you were able to look at it yourself as opposed to some of them folks on YouTube telling you about it? Where'd you get it from? It's not that I'm tooting nobody's horn, but justice is justice. That's just what I'm about. I'm about justice. I'm not about just saying stuff for ratings or saying stuff to belittle people for the sake of belittling them. That's not my type of party, Me personally, I want to treat people fairly. I want folks to, like, even when I interview folks, even when I've done hard interviews that some may say, all of the questions that I asked politicians or whoever it was were based on facts. They were not based on personal feeling. Even when I interviewed Mike Duggan some years ago, I asked him, for the most part, the exact same questions that I asked at that time the other 10 people that I interviewed who ran for mayor. The only thing different that I asked him about was his connections to McNamara, his connections to Snyder when he was lying about being a part of the clique with Snyder, when he was saying that, oh no, I love Detroit public schools. And in public, he was publicly telling folks how much he loved Detroit public schools. All the while he was running for mayor, he sat on the board of the EAA schools, which helped to dismantle the Detroit public schools. So doing fair interviews is what should be done. Asking hard questions is what should be done. According to the Constitution, the reason there's a thing called freedom of the press is because the press job is to keep politicians in check. So that way they don't run amok, just like what you just saw a little over a month ago, a little less than a month ago, matter of fact. So that you can keep politicians from making people run amok. Keep people from committing insurrection. So when folks that are politicians slam the press for merely asking them legitimate questions, there's nothing wrong with the press. It's the politician. And for those who, for instance, are a part of the press who don't believe, they have their picks and chooses of politicians, and they don't believe that they should put them on the spot and always give them a free pass, they are not legitimate journalists. They aren't. That's not the job of a journalist, to give folks a free pass. The job of a journalist is to ask the hard questions, to investigate, to dig deep, or to shine light on that which has never had light shown on it before. That's the job of the press. So, as we listened to Mr. Gates and saw what he, or listened to what he had to say, I still want to know, how could y'all come up with this stuff, and where's your proof? Because somebody on YouTube said it, or somebody transferred something from YouTube and put it on Facebook and they said it. I don't understand. And I say this not because I just heard this interview, but because most of my journalistic life, something about me has made me want to delve into how people made their money and what they did with it. And from my following of what Mr. Gates has done for the last, at least for me looking at it for almost 20 years now, I haven't seen him doing any malfeasance or trying to do the things that many of you out there have been portraying that he has done. Y'all will turn against somebody that has given away billions of dollars to help folks, but you won't turn against somebody who let a pandemic run rampant throughout all of our communities. You won't turn against somebody who motivated an insurrection. You won't turn against somebody who came into the black community and basically said black folks didn't know how to count during the general election, the counting of the votes. You supported somebody who disrespected nations of people of color, calling their countries turd hole countries. I'm going to clean it up. Somebody that didn't mind separating children from their parents. You support that. And those of you who are still in political office, who refuse to step up to impeach Trump, those of you who are in the Senate of the United States of America, that still refuse to impeach Trump, a man who could have very well been the cause of the loss of your particular life. Because when them cats were in there running rampant, they didn't have no pictures to see which one of y'all was the good Republican and which one was the bad Republican. Do y'all actually think they know what all of y'all look like? Especially those of you who weren't always in the camera sucking the water out of Trump's kneecaps. They didn't know who you were. They didn't necessarily come from your neck of the woods, your city, your county, your suburb. So all of your lives were in danger as they stormed the Capitol. And if one of you've been killed, do you think Trump would have stood up and said, "Oh, you shouldn't have killed that one"? Huh? Do you? I mean, as he pulls your strings from Mar-a-Lago right this very moment, because you know the highest ranking Republican was just hanging out with Trump in Mar-a-Lago a day or so ago, taking pictures. So now, without hiding it anymore, the legitimate face of the Republican Party is that of racism, bigotry, and bullyism. I mean, it's not like we didn't know this was what America was about, those of us of color. It's not like we didn't know that. You know, that's why our topic tonight is that the old isn't new, but the new could be better. Because you have an opportunity to make the new better if you just let that old stank mentality go. Those 10 Republicans in the House that voted to impeach Trump are catching unholy hell for that mere gesture of truth. Because they legitimately understand how the Constitution of the United States works. Because they legitimately know the danger of the direction to which the Republican Party has been going for the United States of America. For every community. Huh? Now, for years, I didn't necessarily get into the politics as deep as I'm taking it now, but it's necessary. Because, you know, we've been trained to not talk about politics and religion. We've been trained to do that. To run from that portion of life that directly influences our longevity, our sustenance, and our mentality. Dealing with religion and politics. The sustenance and longevity, the politics. The thought process, the religion. So we don't talk about those things. And most times you don't talk about it because you don't understand it. And if you understood it, it would make you mad when some folks say certain things. If you knew it from beginning to end, historically, analytically, and the juxtaposition between what you're being told in some building as to what is actually written in the books you claim to believe in. As Solomon said, there is nothing new under the sun. It's not new. People have been ganking people for foolish reasons for thousands upon thousands of years. People have been misusing and bullying people for thousands upon thousands of years. In every nation and every culture. But it's just got worse over the last 6,000 years. There's no reason for people all over the planet not to get justice and be treated fairly. You saw over in Russia where they locked up the guy who's going against Putin. They poisoned him last year. And he still won't give up. He won't punk out. Likewise, you see those 10 Congress people who are in the House who stood up against the tyranny that Trump tried to push forward. But yet, their constituents are punking out and cowering and kowtowing. And they're supposed to be looking out for the interests of the American people and not the interests of Donald J. Trump. Trump's no longer the president. Companies that were helping you guys have pulled back from you because of the stance that you guys have taken with Trump. Because of the insurrection. Because of the volatile comments that he, his children, and the Proud Boys, Alex Jones, Fox News reporters, folks on Newsmax. I think the other one's OAN, and a few other of those stations. Rudy Giuliani, his boy Steve. All of these jokers have been misleading you. Knowingly. It's not that they don't understand that Trump's been lying to you. Knowingly, they've been misleading you. I mean, a few weeks ago, I played the audio from 50 Cent where he said he was offered $1 million to come to Trump's inauguration 4 years ago. And he said that Lil Wayne and some other ones were paid to endorse Trump. Now, 50 said he was going to vote for Trump because he didn't want to pay no taxes. But he never said he agreed with none of his policies. He only said he was going to vote for Trump because Joe Biden said he was going to raise the taxes on the rich, which is a good thing. You heard Bill Gates said he's paid over $10 billion with a B in taxes, and says that the rich need to pay more. This from the second richest man in the world. He didn't say, nah, man, we need to duck. We need to dip, baby, dip. He didn't say that. He said that they need to pay more, which is only right. To whom much is given, much is required. And no, that is not Spider-Man, that's Solomon. When you get more, you owe more. For those who say, man, I put these beats together, I came up with these rhymes, but your rhymes ain't worth a dime if none of us buy them. So no, you're not in this by yourself. I don't care how much talent you have, if nobody's in the mindset of purchasing said talent or your said product that came forth from your talent, it's worthless. All of us owe one another. If we don't owe one another, we owe somebody. Like my man Steve Smith, he's on here. He's one of my Facebook friends that's locked into this group. When he was growing up over in his neighborhood, and he'd come up to what we used to call the Dust Bowl when he was a little boy. And that's where we used to shoot basketball over on DeQuindre. It was called the Dust Bowl. We called it the Dust Bowl because it was just a big hole with this rim in it and no cement and a cloud of dust when you really get to playing. We used to call it the Dust Bowl. And because of him being in the Dust Bowl with the older dudes, and he said, well, one day I'm going to be a basketball player, and they hit him and boom him and say, yeah, if you can tough it out, little punk. Because of them guys in the Dust Bowl toughening him up, and some of the other guys he played with during the time he lived in the hood, they helped his talent develop, which a lot of natural talent he may have had, but even Michael Jordan didn't make the team when he first came out in high school. So because of the training and going head up with other folks, it made him better. Likewise with Steve Smith. So Jordan, Steve Smith, all of us owe somebody. I always give props to the Electrifying Mojo. Because if it had not been for him, when I was coming up, when I heard him on the radio when I turned 14, that made me want to be a DJ. That was my first interest in wanting to be a part of this entertainment media business thing. Then I always give props to Mr. Pruitt, who was the teacher at Persian. He was the drama teacher. Because his drama class brought me out of my shell because I was shy. But having to get up there on stage and write your own plays and learn how the mechanisms worked kind of brought me out. I was captain of the football team and had a Michael Jackson voice. I hated my voice. Hated having to call calisthenics. Hated to have to go through all of that and raise my voice because I sounded like a little girl. Big old dude, almost 200 pounds, with a little Michael Jackson voice. Then I give props to the Son of Man because when I was in college and I met him and he heard a tape of my show and my voice still hadn't totally developed yet. And he said, bro, you got some talent, but your voice ain't that pleasant. Hurt my feelings. But what that did, and as opposed to me saying, man, I ain't know what you talking about. I can do what I want to do. Instead of that, I went back and said, and started doing those voice exercises to deepen my voice up, to work on my articulation better, to do the things that the voice and diction class said, but to take it further so I can make my voice sound more pleasant on the air. And some of y'all still may say, man, you don't sound like nothing. But it don't matter what you say. Now I got it now. So everybody influences one another. Even those cats who used to try to bully me. I mean, some of the stuff I've talked about before. The cats who tried to bully me coming up. But I wouldn't punk out. Wouldn't back down. Them cats didn't weaken me. Made me say I wasn't going to commit suicide. No, it made me say, nah. You ain't doing that here, G. You done bumped against a head harder than yours. You can't break me. So it made me stronger. You know, I used to read, my parents had World Book encyclopedias, right? They bought this when I was, I guess, in elementary school. You know how the cat would come around to the door selling? Well, y'all, some of y'all don't because y'all the computer age. But cats used to come around to the door selling encyclopedias. So my parents got the World Book, right? Cats used to be playing the dozens and all that stuff. And I wasn't that good at that. So since I know I wasn't as good at that as they did, I started reading the dictionary, the encyclopedia. So I could find words to call cats that they didn't understand. You can't have a comeback if you don't know what somebody called you. So that helped me develop my mind, even though it was for the wrong reason, but it gave me a reason because of cats doing what they did. See, you can always take a negative and make a positive out of it, even if you don't realize that's what you're doing sometimes. Sometimes you just have to not buckle. Sometimes you just got to find a way to get around. Got to get over. Got to get under. Got to get it. No matter why somebody else thinks you can't. They may give you a why. Well, you can't do this. Why you want to do this? Why you think you got it? Why? Theirs ain't the reason why. Yours is to do or die. I took that from Kennedy and flipped it, you see. Do the doggone thing. You know, I hear cats all the time talking about, man, I gotta hit the streets, man, because I can't make it, man. It's tough out here. I gotta get in the street, G. I just gotta be in the streets, man. As brilliant as a lot of you cats are out in the street, imagine what you would have been in your own boardroom. If you'd have merely had an opportunity to get in your own boardroom and do this thing. What you could have achieved. Many of you spent your whole life and watched yourself come full circle from being on top of the game to getting hooked on your own supply to trying to come up all over again and end up having to work a regular 9 to 5. Many of you out there have done that. But you perp like you really had it going when you was in the street. That stuff don't last. Because most of you don't have enough sense to get out the street. You can go to jail for years, for most of your life, and come out and do some of the same stuff. I had a partner, one of my partner's older brothers. Cat got locked up when he was 17. I was in elementary school when he got locked up. He got out, got locked up again. He got out again. And I saw dude, he was trying his best. He had a son. His son mama had got strung out on rocks. He had total control of his son. He had the parental guidance, the parental control. And he wouldn't let that old mentality go. He was stuck in the Superfly era. Oh, Hodo, you tripped. No, but that's what he said. I talked to dude. He told me one time, because, you know, some of y'all didn't used to like what I say. They used to call my show and say, yeah, man, I'll do such and such to you. You keep talking about that. Meet me. I'm coming to get you. All that old nonsense. And he saw it and got mad. And he ain't the only one got mad. I said, man, you want me to go get them cats? I said, dude, you got to let that stuff go, man. These cats. He said, no, man, I'm Superfly. That's what he told me. I'm Superfly. Dude, Superfly was out in the early 70s. At this particular time, it was the early 2000s. Now, I know they made a couple Superfly movies since then, but they weren't out at the time he was talking that. So we got to let go of the old stuff that was no good for us. But the old stuff that worked, you need to grab that. You know, a lot of y'all get the misperception of when they say, better learn the lesson of history or you're destined to repeat it. It was something that worked, and you should want to repeat that. Because those who were enslavers and those who are on top of the scheme of things, they're using the old stuff. Divide and conquer. Huh? The stuff straight out the scripture. A house divided against itself shall not stand. Divide and conquer. Get you to arguing with the folks you should be loving. And you loving the folks that you should be running away from. Just think, a cat motivated some folks to try to kill a governor because she didn't want to open the gyms. This is what they said now. They could have been lying. They might just want to kill. But according to what the documentation that I read to you guys months ago, Cat said that she won't open the gym, so she's a tyrant. These cats made plans of blowing up a bridge, kidnapping her, you know, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. They made plans to kill her, to shoot any cops, to storm the Capitol in Michigan. All of these things. A group of old white men trained to be murderers. Trained to be kidnappers. Trained to kill public servants. To destroy property. All of those things they trained on. They're trained to be domestic terrorists. This is not new. The Klan did it. The Proud Boys are doing it. The Nazis did it. So this old stuff isn't new. But the new could be better. Folks flipping on each other for no reason. Like, for instance, let me let you hear this. I just want you to check this out. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see, is that it? Yeah, just check this out. These folks who the Republican Party is feuding from within, right? And there are many people who have watched this stuff, watched what the politricksters are doing, and they're tired of it, so they're changing up. You know, they don't want to deal with that, anymore. Pardon me. And so they don't want to have to keep going through the okie doke with you jokers, you see? And they're not. So they're going to change up. No matter how much y'all think y'all get. I mean, don't y'all realize in order for Trump to be voted out of office, that folks had to change up? And folks who were sitting by the wayside had to come forth. Do you realize that? That had to happen in order for things to be as they are right now. So check this out. Let's see. Come on. There you go.
That's what a handful of Republican lawmakers are learning. A small group who blamed Trump for the violence at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. The majority of Republicans in Congress continue to defend crossing former President Donald Trump has consequences. That's what a handful of Republican lawmakers are learning. A small group who blamed Trump for the violence at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. The majority of Republicans in Congress continue to defend President Trump in the face of a second impeachment and look to punish those Republican office holders who do not, NPR's Don Gagne reports.
Former President Trump's fiercest supporters are already working to make fellow Republicans who supported impeachment pay a price. To that end, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz headed west yesterday.
I love Wyoming!
Gaetz held a midday event outside the Wyoming Capitol building to rally voters in this conservative state against Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of 10 Republicans who joined Democrats to impeach Trump 2 weeks ago.
If you want to prove that you have the power, defeat Liz Cheney in this upcoming election, and Wyoming will bring Washington to its knees.
Gaetz says he'll support an outsider who runs against Cheney in 2022, and he wants her immediately removed from her post among the Republican House leadership. Meanwhile, Steve Bannon, the former top advisor to Trump and a recipient of a presidential pardon, has endorsed a candidate in western Michigan to take on Congressman Peter Meijer, who also voted to impeach. Bannon is using his daily podcast to recruit other challengers.
And I think the best thing to do is get great candidates up there and primary them now. And what we're going to do is provide a platform for that.
Party leaders aren't thrilled with this kind of infighting. On top of that, the GOP has members in Congress who ascribe to conspiracy theories like...
Now, hold on. Now, are people going to follow behind what Steve Bannon said? This is a cat who said folks' heads should be chopped off and put up on pikes around the White House. Huh? This cat said to chop folks' heads off who didn't want to support Trump and put them on pikes, like the Romans used to do. Put them on the end of a spear and hang it up there for all to see, to intimidate people. These are the kind of people that have been influencing you, some of you, for the last 4 years or more. We continue.
QAnon, which RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel this week called dangerous. Republicans also just lost control of the Senate, with Trump himself adding to their troubles by repeatedly attacking the credibility of Georgia's voting system in the midst of a runoff election. Pete Seat is a Republican strategist and a former Indiana state party executive. He says there's something that any party that loses an election needs to do: honestly assess what went wrong.
They're not taking the time to sit down and say, okay, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? What do we have to do? What constituencies are we not reaching out to? What policies should we be putting forward to attract these voters?
Republicans appear to be skipping that after Trump's loss because so many party officials either believe or support the lie that he didn't really lose. Seat, who worked in the George W. Bush administration, says it's clear Donald Trump will continue to have an outsized influence in party politics, no matter how this second impeachment trial turns out.
He's diminished in terms of platform at this moment, but not diminished in the sense that we're continually talking about what impact he will have moving forward.
And Trump's huge presence may endure as a possible future candidate or not. Don Gagne, NPR News, Washington.
So you see, you got those folks who still pumping the okie doke, even though they know it's okie doke. Huh? Now, this is not to say that everybody's falling for the okie doke. Now, there are thousands who aren't. You know, those are the ones I was just talking about a little earlier, who are tired of the okie doke and they're not falling for it no more, even though you still got these folks trying to bamboozle them. Check this out.
Sixth assault on Congress. Thousands of Republicans have left their party. As Colorado Public Radio's Andrew Kenny explains, those voters have headed in very different directions.
Lyle Dara had been a Republican all his life. That changed soon after the riot at the U.S. Capitol.
I was just completely shocked and shamed. You know, that's not who I think of a Republican, who we were and who we are. And so, you know, it's something that I felt that I could no longer be a supporter of that party.
Dara voted for Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2020. Now he's a registered Democrat, and he jokes that he and his wife won't cancel each other's votes out anymore.
We've always teased each other, hey, give me your ballot, I'll go drop it off for you. Wink, wink. And so now, now we're a unified voting format.
According to voter registration data, he was one of about 4,600 people to quit the GOP in Colorado in the week after the riot. That's about 7 times higher than the normal number of people who switch parties in a typical week, and it didn't happen for any other party. There's a similar story playing out in other states, too. But not all of those defectors are becoming Democrats. Some say the Republican Party hasn't done enough to support Trump and instead became unaffiliated voters.
We've all been living a lie and been told a lie.
Sarah Ocker lives near Dara in rural Weld County. She thinks GOP leaders betrayed Trump by partially blaming him for the violence and refusing to overturn the election.
There's only one party in America, and it's a party that's not for Americans. It's for corporations and businesses and media moguls that think that they can silence our voices and our votes.
Now she's not sure if or when she'll vote again. In far western Colorado, Phil Trubia shared some of that skepticism.
I'm going to be kind of looking out who's an establishment Republican and who's not.
He and his wife switched to the American Constitution Party. He used to be a straight-ticket GOP voter, but not anymore, he says.
I do feel there is a split. Yeah, there could be.
Now, the overall number of party switchers is pretty small compared to the millions of voters here in Colorado, but it's an illustration of a big problem facing the GOP, says Ryan Winger of the Republican pollster Magellan Strategies.
You know, no matter which fork in the road they choose, they're clearly going to lose what is currently a part of their coalition or what has been a part of the coalition.
And that's an especially fraught decision in Colorado. Over the past decade, the GOP has lost ground here and no longer holds any major statewide offices or majorities in the state house. That change in the balance of power has some conservative voters looking for a new political home.
honestly, I think the Republican Party is dead. I don't think there's going to be a Republican Party in the next couple of years.
That's Martin Lee Hussman. He's lived in the small southern Colorado city of Alamosa all his life. We talked as he drove to a job for his plumbing business.
Pretty big in my community. It's a relatively small town, and I was born and raised here. I've been in a family business since I was born, and then I started my own company about 10 years or so ago.
That means people don't just know him, they know his politics, including the surprising change he just made.
And I got to tell you, man, vast majority of my friends are laughing at me when I switched over to Democrat.
Hussman voted for Trump in 2020, so...
They think I'm crazy.
With the GOP losing sway in Colorado, Hussman says becoming a Democrat is a way to change the party in power from within, but it won't stop him from voting for Republicans if he likes what they do. As for party affiliation, he's not that attached.
Oh, it's easy to switch back to something else if I don't like the way this is going.
For NPR News, I'm Andrew Kenny.
So you see, everybody is not falling for the okie doke. Even though they might have got tripped up in the beginning, they did have enough sense to say, nah, I can't stick with this. Now, for those who are in the Capitol, they shouldn't have the option to stick with something that they knew failed, that they knew was a lie, that they knew was manipulation of their own constituency. Unless, of course, they think that that was okay. Then it falls upon you to know whether or not it's okay. Now, y'all voted them back in because y'all was sucking on Trump's kneecaps too. Those of you who did that. Voted them dudes back in, even though you knew what they were saying was lies. I don't care how much y'all try to go over the top and make believe. Y'all knew that stuff was lies, man. Come on now. I don't care how many conspiracy theories you try to make become reality. If it is not reality, it cannot be made to be reality. It was a big lie. A gigantron lie. It was such a big lie that it makes the empire, compared to the lies that were told, the Empire State Building looks minute. So, as hopefully we can make this thing better, what are the steps to the betterment of this thing? First and foremost, because the most pressing thing going on right now is the pandemic and its mutations. Now, I told some of y'all who were watching that this thing was going to mutate way before this. I mean, it's inevitable. That's just how viruses do. I mean, over the years, I've done shows on STDs. There had become a new strain of gonorrhea and syphilis. It had gotten worse. The drugs that once worked on it didn't work anymore. And those things haven't gone anywhere. You know, right now, a lot of y'all been out there meeting up with folks that y'all never met before. Is that an intelligent move during a pandemic? I mean, it already wasn't really an intelligent move because you had AIDS and herpes and syphilis and gonorrhea, right? You know, y'all don't want to wrap it up. Y'all want to do nothing. Y'all free Willy, huh? Willie became Billy Nut Lump Lump. It's an old school joke. Anyway. Huh? So, as this thing continues, what will be the next moves? Because, you know, like I've told y'all before, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I'm independent, you know. I'm an independent thinking kind of brother. If it don't look right, I'm going to call it out no matter who it is. You know, during the Clinton days, we slammed them too. Here in Detroit, during the Dennis Archer's days, we slammed him. During the Kilpatrick days, when he did something wacky, we slammed him. When Dave Bing was in the midst of selling off the water department, we slammed him. When Ken Cockrell did his thing, we slammed him. But when folks do the right thing, we don't slam them. I mean, Mike Duggan, he does some screwy stuff too. So, as I mentioned earlier, Anthony Adams, who was Kwame Kilpatrick's deputy mayor during the time of his regime, he's thrown his hat in the ring that now he's going to run for mayor of Detroit. And, he's announcing about a year earlier, so, which is a good thing. What do you guys think about that? And y'all can write that one. Let me see if there's anybody writing anything. Nope, nobody wrote nothing yet. And I ain't gonna write nothing either. But y'all can either give me a call here, 313-334-5909, if y'all want to discuss what you think about Anthony Adams running for mayor of Detroit. I don't know who else is thrown their hat in the ring, but I would love to interview any of you guys who are running, or any of you young ladies who are running for mayor for the city of Detroit. And to set up an interview, you can call me, and it'll say Other Viewpoint Productions. If you don't get me direct, leave a message, and it has all of the incidentals on to leave a message, your name and your phone number. But it also says if you don't leave a message, you won't get a call back. That's what my voicemail says. So you can call Other Viewpoint Productions at 313-685-6777. Those of you who know me know that's been the same number for well over 20 years. 313-685-6777 if you want to set up an interview. And we'll work it out. But if you do an interview, we also want the audience to be able to call in and question you too, because I don't do any interviews where the audience can't talk to you. I don't believe in doing that. Unless, of course, it's a reason that the audience can't talk to you because of technical issues. Beyond that, if I'm talking to you, if I am talking to you, the audience has to talk to you. And any live program that usually takes callers and they have a guest in studio or a guest on the line and they're a politician and they won't take your calls, they won't take them, but they usually take them when they don't have that kind of guest, they don't have a political guest, you can't trust the guest or the politician. Period. Because from being in the business, I know that the only reason that politicians don't take questions or religious folks don't take questions is because they either paid off the host or they told the host, well, I ain't taking no questions. I'd have told him, well, you ain't going to be on my show. Or they'll sometimes write the questions down for the host. That's why sometimes you watch those shows and you're like, man, why this dude asking no real questions? Because 9 times out of 10, he didn't come up with the questions. Or you may say, dang, why they always asking him the same question on every show? Because either the cast has been paid off, the management of the station has been paid off, or cast just slipping some dollars in their pocket. Those are the reasons. So, Talk Show Host 101 is, don't ask no questions you don't already know the answer to. Which means you had to come up with the questions for yourself. Again, the media's job when interviewing politicians is to make sure the politicians are doing the right thing. And if they aren't, matter of fact, like for instance, like this right here, Mike Duggan has endorsed the plan to Let me read this to you. Like this, the current mayor of Detroit. Has endorsed a plan to allow hazardous materials to come across the Ambassador Bridge, which means it'll come through Detroit. From Canada. He's endorsed that plan, even though the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, has been totally against it. Says, Mayor Mike Duggan's administration has endorsed a controversial proposal to allow trucks to transport hazardous and toxic materials across the Ambassador Bridge. In a memo, January 13th, to the city council members, 4 city departments indicated they don't oppose Detroit International Bridge Company's, or DIBC's, request for trucks to carry fuel, flammable chemicals, and corrosive materials over 91 years, over the 91-year span. Michigan Department of Transportation, MDOT, which is weighing the company's proposal, said it wouldn't sign off on the plan if local agencies object. In the memo, Detroit's Building and Safety, Engineering, and Environmental Department said that while it does not object to DIBC's request, it does highly recommend continued public outreach, specifically with Southwest Detroit residents. It is important for residents to understand the transportation corridors that will be utilized, as well as the method used while safely transporting materials between Detroit and Canada, BC said. 3 schools and 2 public parks are near the bridge, and the Sierra Club said that allowing hazardous materials to cross the span could be catastrophic because it's old, isn't sufficiently inspected, and lacks proper technology and safety protocols. Since 1929, MDOT has banned many hazardous materials from crossing the Ambassador Bridge. Hazardous materials are currently trucked across the international border via Detroit-Windsor Truck Ferry and Blue Water Bridge in Port Huron. DIBC officials insist that those routes are more dangerous because hazardous materials are forced to take more curious routes that cover a larger area, which increases the risk of an incident. The truck also passes through more densely populated neighborhoods in the state, they argue. They pass through more densely brighter colored neighborhoods too. Late last year, Michigan lawmakers tucked a provision into the Corona-19 relief bill that would have allowed trucks to use the bridge to carry hazardous materials, but Governor Gretchen Whitmer issued a veto. So they tried to sneak it in through a coronavirus thing, but your mayor here in Detroit, Mickey D, Mike Duggan, he says okay. Shall wait. Go ahead and bring some stuff through the hoodie hood. Huh? He said it's all right, it's okay. Some of y'all just might have to die today. Huh? So, as I say, it don't matter whether they're Democrat or Republican. Wrong is wrong. And there's no reason to bring that garbage through Southwest Detroit. Through Detroit, period. Why does the hazardous stuff have to be brought here anyway? Why don't they make some safe stuff? Why has it got to be hazardous? Hodo, you pipe dreaming. No, I'm not. I'm just talking realistically. But these are the things that's happening, you see? Because the cat said with a smile, y'all supposed to go for it. I know that is going to kill you. But we can make it safer, even though it kills you. I know many of you don't want it. We're going to bring it, okay? Yeah, all right. See, these are the kind of things that you have to discuss before electing a cat. Because you never know. Huh? You never know. Because your safety, the safety of said constituents of said politician should always come first. Anything hazardous to areas that you're over should be a no-no. No. See, as a parent, and many of y'all some soft kind of parents, but as a parent, your very first word should be no. Especially fathers. No. Y'all, nowadays these fathers like to spoil everybody. Spoil your daughter, spoil your son. Spoil. No. Should be the first word. No. A mayor or a governor is like the parent of that said governmental system. So their job is to keep the constituency safe, like the governor has been doing here. The governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, she's been doing all that she possibly could to keep people safe from this COVID thing, Even though the spoiled children up there in the state capital of Lansing, Michigan, have run amok. Want to take mommy's powers from her? Huh? Mommy? No, mommy, you can't have so much power, mommy. Huh? Could you imagine telling your mama that? Say, don't put your hand in that fire, boy. Oh, mommy, you don't need that kind of power. Don't be telling me that. Huh? Boy, don't stick your finger in that electric plug. Oh, mommy, let me do it, mommy. Stop, mommy. You don't need that kind of power to tell me that. Put a mask on. Miss Governor, you can't tell me that. Social distance. Stay safe. I want to stay safe. Y'all sound like some spoiled children. You can't tell me to stay out of the gym. I'm going to kidnap you. Yeah. Huh? You have too much power. I gotta take your power. That's how the cats in Lansing sound. The super Republican legislature up in Lansing, Michigan. Whenever somebody does something to benefit the people as a whole, they try to hold it up. See, it's all right as long as it's hitting the burbs, it's cool. But anytime, because, the folks in Detroit and so forth, they love Gretchen Whitmer. They call her Big Gretch. Because she did all she could to keep black folks safe. Came and marched with them during the Black Lives Matter rallies and stuff, when they killed our brother Floyd. But the super Republican legislature didn't like that. They ain't like it at all. So anytime that somebody's looking out for all of the people, it's not a good thing. But if you got some slanted stuff like you poison some folks up in Flint, nah, we shouldn't prosecute. Why y'all want to prosecute him? Instead, y'all want to give him some misdemeanors instead of really sticking it to the cat who has been the head of the menagerie of folks who messed up the Flint water system. I mean, when these dudes transferred the water system from Detroit back to Flint, and people in Flint, see, I lived in Flint for a couple years. And when I lived there, people were talking about that water almost 30 years ago. I think it's been over, was it 30 years ago? A little more than 30. They talked about how bold that they knew the water was bold since the 1940s. You think these folks in political office didn't know that? The people in the hood knew it. So now children with brain damage and all kind of stuff going on from that poison. Every last one of them cats who was in charge of switching that water over need to be made to drink that water for the next 6 years. If the water gets clean, stockpile them some of that dirty water for a while. Stockpile some for them. Put it in that special cooler just for them. So every time their throat gets dry, they say, swiggle, 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 swag. Swallow all of this right here, drag. Get some. Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug. Political thugs. But, you know, that's too much like right. Oh, Hodo, you shouldn't. Yes, they should. Indeed, they should. Snyder and all his cronies should be made to drink their water for the next 6 years. And let's see what happens. All right, so let's move on. See what else I got for you. Now, even though Mr. Trump has left office, this cat is still sticking his finger in the eye of America, right? Now, Mr. Trump is still trying to go on with his agenda, right? Donald Trump announced the opening of the office of the former president. Trump, who served the term as 45, y'all know that, right? Well, the office that he created in Palm Beach, Florida, the office of the president, opened his headquarters on February 8th. On that same day, the launch of the office was announced. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent an article impeachment for Trump. Well, yeah, okay. The office will be responsible for managing Trump's correspondence, public statements, appearances, and official activities to advance the interests of the United States, to carry on the agenda of Trump's administration through advocacy. Meaning he don't have to necessarily be the one to do it. He gonna stand in the background and send his advocates out, you know. It's little minions. You know what minions are, right? See, y'all been mixing it up with those little cartoon characters. Minions are helpers of the devil. So he's going to send out his advocates. You know that movie, The Devil's Advocate? His little advocates, his little minions. In public activism, a statement Trump read. The statement continued, President Trump will always and forever be a champion for the American people. Really? So he's going to be in the background pulling strings. That's why your boy, that's the new leader for the minority of the Republicans, met with him over the weekend or the last couple of days. Because Trump is planning on sticking his finger in there, doing his thing from the background, if y'all let him. Hopefully y'all are brighter than that. And I'm not talking about you, those of you right there. I'm talking about them folks who are in the Capitol, in D.C. I hope y'all are brighter than that. Because there's too much going on right now for you to stay stuck in the okie doke. Like, for instance, you got a congressman who, during this pandemic thing, has been evicting his renters. Tom Williams. No, I'm wrong. Excuse me. Mark Wayne Mullen, Republican of Oklahoma, drew ire for voting to turn over the 2020 presidential election, as well as refusing to wear a mask during COVID-19 from spreading when lawmakers locked down the U.S. Capitol during the insurrection. His nonchalance about the coronavirus did not end there. Eviction notices have been filed against residents of 2 rental properties associated with Mullen during the pandemic. The eviction filings as corona cases counts have steadily increased in Oklahoma and the United States. So far, Oklahoma has seen 3,323 deaths from the coronavirus in September. The Centers of Disease Control Prevention issued a national moratorium against evictions as a public health measure to prevent the spread of COVID. Mullen is associated with multiple rental properties and companies. His 2019 financial disclosure lists investments in 2 Oklahoma property management firms, Mullen Properties LLC and Mullen Properties West Division LLC. The disclosure also lists a 50% investment in TC4 Investments LLC by Mullen's spouse. According to the Oklahoma Secretary of State website, Mark Wayne Mullen is the registered agent of Mullen Properties, and Christy Mullen is the registered agent of TC4 Investments. Those 2 rental companies have initiated eviction proceedings during the pandemic in Oklahoma state courts. Court documents obtained by the Daily Poster show. Mullen Properties filed an eviction notice on December 10th against 2 residents of an apartment in Moore, Oklahoma, according to the court filings obtained by the Daily Poster. The eviction notice says it was filed due to non-payment of rent, fees, or other charges. TC4 Investments filed an eviction notice against a resident of an apartment building in Pryor, Oklahoma on June 15th, 2020, according to the copy of the eviction notice obtained by the Daily Poster. The eviction notice was also filed due to non-payment of rent, fees, or other charges. TC4 Investments recently purchased an apartment building in Pryor, according to Mark Wayne Mullen's 2019 financial disclosure. The prior eviction case appears to have been dismissed. Mullins did not respond to the multiple requests for comment. The CDC took action to curb evictions by issuing an eviction moratorium, which took effect on September 4th. But the moratorium has been criticized as weakly enforced and has allowed evictions to continue despite the pandemic. The moratorium was set to expire December 31st before Congress took action and extended the moratorium until January 31st. President Joe Biden then extended the moratorium until March 31st. The current CDC order requires tenants to file a declaration in order to have this protection, said Seamus Roller, the executive director of the National Housing Law Project. Few tenants understand this, and the CDC has made no effort to educate the public. Evictions also increase homelessness and in many cases force families to live in overcrowded conditions, Roller said. In a time when we should be limiting social contact, eviction forces people out into the open. New research has demonstrated that evictions lead to higher rates of transmission of COVID and result in the death from the illness. Biden has called on Congress to vote on extending the eviction moratorium through September and to vote on increased aid for renters. Mullen voted against the December 19th relief package. They kept national eviction moratorium alive, claiming that House Speaker Pelosi had only given him and other representatives a few hours to review the bill. The December legislation also included funds for emergency rental relief. In addition to his investments in rental housing, Mullen owns several businesses, including a plumbing company, Mullen's Plumbing. 4 Mullen-associated businesses received between $800,000 and $1.9 million in PPP loans, which the companies reported were used to retain 140 jobs. Mullen Plumbing was previously the subject of an ethics investigation that found the company had improperly paid Mullen's $40,000 in violations of house rules. But y'all keep voting these cats back in. He evicting folks and keeping money that he shouldn't be keeping. But he just got reelected. All for the sake of the party. Party up. I don't like that party up. I like the other party up. The one Prince did. You gonna have to fight your own damn war. We ain't gonna fight no more. We ain't fighting for you no more with that okie doke. So, now let's flip to the other side of the table. Now, you know that President Biden issued a lot of executive orders and so forth, and he also advanced an executive order to help Native Americans. So let's see exactly what that was about. Let's check that out. I want you to check this out so you can hear it and see what some of those executive orders actually did. Let's see.
The executive orders he's signed since arriving in the Oval Office, 4 are aimed. President Biden said it's what faith and morality require. Among the executive orders he's signed since arriving in the Oval Office, 4 are aimed at advancing racial equity and tribal sovereignty. Earlier this week, we spoke with the Brookings Institution's Andre Perry about one of those initiatives, tackling discriminatory federal housing policies.
I do think this is a start. You have to start somewhere. You start with HUD, and hopefully momentum from the public can encourage these other areas to make change.
We called on 3 experts to address the other pillars of the Biden plan, reaffirming tribal sovereignty, ending the federal government's use of private prisons, and condemning discrimination, bias, and hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Ethel Branch is a former attorney general for the Navajo Nation. Paul Butler is a former prosecutor, an author, and professor at Georgetown Law. And from Citizen University and the Aspen Institute, Eric Liu. I started off by asking, will these executive orders make a difference? Ethel Branch spoke first.
Absolutely. It sends a strong message. Using the language of equity is very helpful. It's a needed reaffirmance to Indian country that this administration's engagement with Indian nations will be very different from the last administration, and also signals that some of the things that were underway under the Obama administration will be put back into place. But I think this is just a start. If President Biden really wants to reaffirm tribal sovereignty, we need to start talking about lifting the federal chains, essentially, that restrict tribes from controlling their territory and governing with respect to their people.
And Eric Liu, you have written about the experience of Chinese American families. I wonder what you make of this order fighting xenophobia against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
I think President Trump created a frame of permission that it was okay to be casually racist toward Asian Americans and people of Asian descent. And as with so much of President Trump's racism, he could say, at least on the surface, plausibly, oh, I didn't mean that. That's not meant to be that. You're being too sensitive. But I think anybody of actual Asian descent could feel the vibe of disrespect and menace. And the form of disrespect comes in this way in particular, which is, you look Asian. I don't really care whether you're Asian American or Asian from Asia. I'm going to see you as a threat. I'm going to see you as a problem. I'm going to see you as a scapegoat. President Biden, simply by changing the tone, simply by refusing to speak in that way, makes a big difference.
I want to turn to the other executive order ending the federal government's use of private prisons. Paul Butler, you're a professor, of course, at Georgetown Law. You're a former prosecutor, though you've been critical of the criminal justice system, many aspects of it. What are your thoughts on that executive order and its effectiveness?
Biden rolled back some of President Trump's administration's most egregious policies, like abolishing Trump's 1776 commission, which tried to get schools to teach American history, discounting the role of white supremacy. President Obama had banned federal private prisons. Trump reinstated them, and now Biden has re-banned them. It's a decent but limited start. For example, Biden's executive order does not immediately close one prison. It says that when a contract with a private prison comes up, it should not be renewed. And it only applies to prisons, not to immigration detention centers. The bigger problem is mass incarceration. And Biden's executive order doesn't make a dent in that. Only about 10% of all inmates are housed in federal prisons. Not one of those gets to go home.
We've heard a lot about tone, about undoing things that the Trump administration has done, about sort of reframing in each of these cases. But what needs to happen next?
We talk about the president as POTUS, but there is another POTUS that's at play here, and that's the people of the United States. The great responsibility is on us, we the people, us as citizens, to take responsibility where we live in our own communities, in our own institutions, for starting these same conversations, naming these same ills, reading the map of power and decoding how are we going to hold up our corner? How are we going to do our part to unwind these challenges and problems?
This is Paul. I would push back from that a bit. The New York Times described the movement for Black Lives as the most successful social justice movement in the history of this country. There was one day this past summer where there were demonstrations in 550 different cities. Citizens have been demanding change. So we've been on the case. And now that we have a sympathetic person in the Oval Office, I think it's time for us to demand that that person act. So I say every week, us racial justice advocates should be asking the White House, what have you done for us lately? What have you done for us this week?
If Biden does want to make these bold, transformative moves to advance racial equity and just equity in this country for all American citizens, I think we really need to be talking about moving from that civil rights framework to a human rights framework. Everybody should be able to eat 3 meals a day. Everybody should have a right to have a job or whatever. A third of Navajo and Hopi lack indoor plumbing and direct access to clean drinking water. In the face of COVID, that's been devastating because it makes constant hand washing difficult and makes it hard to stay home because people have to travel to a windmill and haul their water or seek water in neighboring communities where the COVID restrictions are not very strictly imposed. So, I would really love to see President Biden start talking about human rights and setting that minimum standard for all Americans.
This is Paul. The concern is that's a colorblind approach that doesn't directly attack white supremacy. So human rights, not civil rights, reminds me of President Obama's colorblind approach. He would say that a rising tide lifts all boats. So if you make things better for everybody, then people of color will also benefit. But the rising tide only helps if you have a boat. And too many people of color, including Native people and African American people, never had a boat in the first place. The point is that mass incarceration, police violence, the disproportionate impact of the COVID pandemic on communities of color, segregated and substandard housing, all of those are related. And they're all symptoms of the disease. And the disease is white supremacy.
We've been talking with Georgetown Law's Paul Butler, Ethel Branch, former Attorney General for the Navajo Nation, and Eric Liu with Citizen University and the Aspen Institute. Thanks so much.
So, you see, these things are happening. I don't know what's going on. Picture getting dark. Anyway. All right. So these things are happening. Will it help? Who knows? But one thing I did agree with in the light, I was like, well, hold on, what you caring about them people who are Native American? Well, I got some Cherokee in my blood too. So I got more than one side of folks. But one thing the dude did say, dealing with the Black Lives Matter, since they were the most influential group in the history of America, dealing with black people so far, well, I ain't gonna say the most influential because I say the Nation of Islam has been the most influential because without them, we would have never been called black. We wouldn't return to from whence we came. But anyway, so as I guess it was a good thing I did say something about the color. It came back. Anyway, at least the brightness. There should be a movement on at least a weekly basis, you say every day, but at least a weekly basis on how are things coming with what y'all doing to help black people. What's going on? That should be a focus that Kamala should be put right on. I understand she's part Asian, black, Indian, from India. So that's something that she should head up. And a lot of y'all, well, no, she shouldn't because she's black. That's why she should head it up. She didn't come from the burbs. She was raised in the hood originally. So she should head it up. See, like a lot of y'all say, well, Kamala was the first person of color to be vice president. That's not true. She was not. And matter of fact, the vice president, this guy here in the middle was the first vice president of color. Let me give you a better picture of him so you can see. Let me show you this first. See, he was the first person of color to be vice president in America. Now let me show you a better picture of him and the president to which he was vice president to. See if y'all got any history up in y'all know who it is. Because I'll tell you momentarily if you don't. This is he and the president. The first vice president of color, right here, and the president at that time. Do y'all know who it was? Dun, 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 dun. Y'all can't answer the question? All right. When vice president, well, anyway, his name is Charles Curtis, and he was the first vice president of color. Curtis was a Native American lawmaker from the Kaw Nation. When Vice President Kamala Harris was sworn into office on January 20th, she made history as the first woman of color to hold the second highest office in the United States. Harris was the first woman of color, the first Asian American, and first Black American vice president. But according to a fact check from USA Today, she is not the first person of color to hold the position. Charles Curtis, vice president to the 31st president, Herbert Hoover, in 1929, was a Native American lawmaker of the Kaw Nation that pointed out, it was a Facebook post that pointed out that misconception, but historically it has been proven. Curtis served as vice president from 1929 to 1933 at the time where widespread racism and prejudice towards Native Americans was intense. Prior to that, he served in the Senate from 1915 to 1929 and was the first Republican to hold the title of Majority Leader. According to his biography, Curtis wasn't close to Hoover, nor did he play a significant role in the administration despite his previous years of experience. So he was just put there as a figurehead, even though he was the first, He was born in 1860 while his white father and a mother who was 1/4 Kaw, according to the Smithsonian Magazine. His mother died in 1863, and his father fought in the Civil War, leaving Curtis in the care of both sets of grandparents. He would spend some of his adolescence on the Kaw Reservation. Mark Brooks, the site administrator of the Kansas Historical Society's Kaw Mission website, said Curtis was known for his charisma. He had a knack for a conversation. He was just a very likable person, even early on when he was just a young boy in Topeka, Brooks told the outlet. Curtis pursued a career in law and was admitted to the Kansas bar, where his focus was on real estate, selling lots, and building homes, according to the U.S. Senate site. Curtis notably favored the Dawes Act of 1887 that called for the distribution of reservation land belonging to Native Americans and was in support of Native American boarding schools, which led to children being taken from their families and removed from their culture and language, according to the Smithsonian Magazine. So he was kind of like a T-zom. The one thing that might be lightened to the persecution of Curtis was that he was half white. He's light complexion. He's not dark skinned like a lot of Kanza, Brooks said. His personality wins people over. Unfortunately, racists can like a person of color and still be a racist. And I think that's the kind of what happened with Charlie. He was just a popular kid. So they still was racist. They just like him because he had a good personality. Even though he did flip on his own people, I hope that's not going to be par for the course. He was the first of color to hold the seat as vice president. First person of color. Period. So, little history moment for you. Time is okay. Got quite a bit more time. Let's see what else we got here for you. You know that this new strain of COVID is worse, and I've told you guys that it was going to mutate. You know, they're calling it variant instead of saying mutation. You know, but it's a mutation. And some of you have been hearing that some folks have taken the vaccine and still have caught corona. Nobody ever said that you weren't going to be able to catch the corona by taking the vaccine. They said it helps your chances of not dying. It didn't say you wouldn't catch the corona. So that means you still got to mask up, stay sanitized with your hands, keep your hands washed, sanitized, wear the rubber gloves or whatever, dish pan gloves or whatever gloves that you can throw away, not just your winter gloves. And I see a lot of you cats out there wearing your winter gloves, touching everything. But if you're wearing the winter gloves and by chance, hopefully nothing's there, but if it is, you still took the virus home with you. And if by chance you take your gloves off and you throw them on the table and your children, got little children, they play with your gloves, you done infected the family. Don't use your winter gloves. Use some gloves you can throw away if you got to touch stuff outside the house. And throw the gloves away before you come in the house. Don't bring them in the house with you. And every time you touch some stuff, you got to throw the gloves away. You can't go in the gas station, touch everything, punching in with your debit card or your credit card, touching all those buttons, go touch the pump, then get in the car, rubbing on your steering wheel, pet your son on the head, playing with the radio. No. After you pump the gas, close up the gas tank, throw the gloves away. Throw them away. Get another pair. That's why you buy gloves by the box. So that you can use multiples if you're touching multiple stuff. You need to know that. Because some of you out there are still under the misconception that this coronavirus stuff ain't real. How in the hell y'all can do that with all these dead bodies all around America and around the world? All these people getting sick. Folks losing limbs and all kind of stuff. Heart attacks, having brain damage. All this stuff from corona. I don't know how the hell y'all can say it ain't real. Unless, of course, you're real stupid. Then it may not be real to you if you're real stupid. Oh, you can't call folks stupid. Yes, I can. You're real stupid. Yes, I can. I call it like I see them. You ain't gonna never be on no news station. I don't care. That's why I want to own my own. So I could be me. I don't want to be nobody else. I want to be me. So let's learn a little bit about this South African variant. You know, it's reached the United States too. Y'all did know that, right? That the South African variant has reached the United States. I'll give you a little bit on that.
And it has happened. A variant of the coronavirus discovered in South Africa has been detected in the U.S. for the first time. NPR health correspondent Rob Stein has details.
The variant was detected in 2 adults in 2 different parts of South Carolina. Dr. Brandon Traxler of the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control announced the discovery.
The COVID-19 virus variant that first emerged in South Africa have been detected in our state. The arrival of any COVID-19 variant in South Carolina including this one, is yet another reminder that the fight against this deadly virus is far from over.
Both of the infected people recovered, but neither is known to have any history of travel or any connection to each other. That suggests that the virus has been spreading silently in South Carolina and probably elsewhere in the United States. Dr. David Relman is a microbiologist at Stanford University.
What's humbling and disheartening is the likelihood that the virus is already elsewhere in the country. And as to exactly where and in whom, we just don't know.
Another more contagious strain first discovered in the UK has already been found in more than 28 states, and a third more transmissible variant, first spotted in Brazil, was found in Minnesota earlier this week. And these strains aren't just worrying because they spread faster. Some drugs don't seem to work as well against them either. And perhaps most concerning of all, the vaccines being used in the U.S. might be less effective against them too. In fact, the drug company Novavax announced yesterday that its new vaccine appears to be far less effective against the South African variant. So officials say all this means it's more important than ever for everyone to double down on everything we've been hearing for a year now. Wear those masks, wash those hands, and stay away from people you don't live with, especially indoors. That's the best way to keep these new variants from sparking yet another deadly surge. Rob?
So, you see, you still have to wear the gloves, wear the mask, wash your hands, put some sanitizer on there, wear some gloves, all of that. You can't just take this stuff for granted because they're saying it's a vaccine out here, because it ain't guaranteed it's going to work, like I was telling you earlier. Over the years, gonorrhea has mutated, syphilis has mutated. Any virus can mutate. Creatures mutate. Give you an example. I used to work for a water treatment company back when I said I was living in Flint, right? Now, the water in certain parts of Michigan at that time had gotten so filthy that, and you know, one of the nastiest fish it is a catfish. You know, some of y'all love catfish. You don't get my catfish nuggets. But anyway, one of the nastiest fish in fresh water is catfish. Well, this water was so nasty that the catfish had mutated and had grown like a little tentacle at the top of his head that stuck above the water so that the catfish could breathe. That's how nasty the water was. And how do you know? Because they had us, we used to have to walk around when we would go to these people's house to sell them the water treatment systems and show them that picture. The particular company, I can't remember the name of the company, but the company is the same company that invented the osmosis purification system that worked on submarines. They were the ones that invented that process. So that was my first stint at really learning how things could mutate. That's where I was going with that. So as this virus mutates, and some of you knuckleheads, and I got to call it like I see it, y'all don't like this kind of stuff I say, but some of you knuckleheads who saying that the coronavirus ain't real, that fake news, eat the fraud, all that stuff that fool was regurgitating, y'all regurgitating it too? Stop it. The stuff is real. This is a plague on the world. Oh, yeah, it's a plague. Man, I don't care. It's a plague. And because of folks not having no doggone discipline, the stuff spreads. I done heard all of this stuff. I'm tired of being in the house. I sure be glad when I could go to a restaurant. Oh, man, I miss my friends. Oh, woe is me. I don't know how we're gonna make it. We got to soon. I got to be with the people and heard all that crap. Ain't nobody gonna be with nobody if everybody dead. Huh? Discipline. Like me and my brother were talking about this. You know, I was an only child till I was 11. Then my brother was born. We was around each other till he was about 7. Then I went off to college. And pretty much he was the only child from that point on. So we said, this prepared us. Not being around a bunch of folks. That's how it is. Deal with it. Because it's about saving your life and your family's life, or poisoning them, or killing them, or infecting them. It's just that simple. All you yeehaw boys and gals out there who don't want to wear no mask, who was at the insurrection and all this kind of stuff, and y'all was at them rallies with that fool. Oh, you can go, yeah, president fool, ex-president fool. All of y'all was at them rallies with him and all that stuff and yeehawing together. Folks getting sick all around him. Y'all ain't catch a hint. The brother who used to own Papa John's, can't think of his name, one of Trump's major supporters, died. Hanging out at one of Trump's rallies, dancing. Died a few days before the National Republican Convention. They ain't even mention his name. Died of corona. Rudy came to Michigan and infected 20-something people in the state capitol here in Michigan. Gonna tell the woman while she's testifying, why don't you take your mask off? I can't hear you. You sitting right next to her. You a damn lie. You could hear him. You could hear her. Just infecting people. Because y'all don't care. No discipline. Lack of a sense of compassion. But that's okay. See, it ain't serious to you till death come knocking on your door. Who is it? Death. Who? Death. Oh, man, I can't let you in. You don't have a choice. You wouldn't wear no mask? Die. Death come knocking on your door, you can be, oh, God. Oh. All you got to do is mask up and stay away from folks. Do what you got to do. Go to work, stay away from folks. But no, that's too much like right. You want to get emotional about it. How you going to make me wear a mask coming in this store? I've been coming in this store for years. Want to fight with somebody because your dusty crusty don't want to put on a mask. Well, these variants, see, and that's what makes, you know how folks used to say, you know, when somebody die, they die in threes. That's what people be saying, folk tale stuff, superstitious stuff. Yeah, folks die in threes. Well, it look like God done sent the next wave of corona in threes. Huh. One from South America, one from South Africa, and one from Europe. And it ain't guaranteed that there won't be more to come. While the whole world acts a fool, God says, all right, y'all want to slow down? I'm going to slow your butt down. All you cats who want to be up in the jiggly joint watching the girls, can't do that now, can you? All you cats or kittens, little young ladies who want to watch the dudes with the swinging thing in front of your face, can't do that now, can you? You know, it's Mardi Gras time. These people won't be no floats this year at the Mardi Gras. I was looking at that news story earlier. Dancing around out there with the umbrellas and stuff. Huh. Piling up on Bourbon Street. Watching the girls do their thing. You throw them a couple necklaces and some beads and stuff. Not this year. God making y'all stop some of that lewd and lascivious behavior. Huh. Can't sit out there on the corner how you cats, in the big city, in the country too. Y'all find y'all that special vacant lot and put them chairs out there and y'all pass the bottle around and pass the doobies and the blunts around. Y'all can't do that now, can you? Not unless you got a lack of mental clarity. I mean, you can do it if you want to. Do what you want to do. It's your thing. You can do what you want to do. Or you might do it, and do it to death. See, y'all, all of y'all, who's in charge of microorganisms? You ever thought of that? Who's in charge of microorganisms? All of the ones that's running rampant throughout your body. All of the little creatures that live on your body just like we live on the earth, and the ants live on the earth, and the worms and the caterpillars and wasps and bees. There are creatures that live all over your body too. Microorganisms live inward and outward of your body, crawling all over you at all times. Likewise, in the air, there are all kinds of microorganisms all over the place too. Who's controlling all of that? You know, as we talked about Bill Gates earlier, is he controlling that? Dr. Fauci? So y'all not looking at this as a wake-up call for the world. So y'all might have been able to get away with some of that stuff. That, well, maybe Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci did so. If it would have just hit a little small area. But this hit the whole world. And it's mutating. Who controlling that? For you atheists, even if you don't want to say it out loud, y'all just do this here and say, point somewhere else, huh? It ain't you. Or even you agnostics. Huh? With all the crazy going on in the world. And y'all still ain't slowing down on a lot of the crazy. God is in the midst of showing you that y'all need to slow it down. And y'all don't even want to think about that part of it. Y'all want to blame everybody. You want to blame the governor. You want to kill poor Gretchen Whitmer. You want to blame the governor of New York. Governor of California. You want to go off on them. And some of you other ones will say, I'm not going to be that strict. I'm going to just let everybody do live and let live or live and let die. Lack of discipline. Not wanting to do the right thing. You're violating my constitutional rights. Well, die. Constitution that. I'm so glad I want to see my family. So sure you do. Do you want to infect them too? Like for instance, I go out and work. I leave and go to a job almost every day. 5 days a week. I ain't seen my mama in almost a year. I'm not going to take the chance, just by chance, that I might have came in contact. I'm not going to go see my mama and infect her. So if I can have that much discipline, I expect it out of everybody else. Oh man, you tripping. I'm going to go see my... I ain't tripping nothing. That's called loving someone enough to suffer for yourself to save their lives or keep them safe. But stupid as stupid does. Huh? You listen to the fool. It's going to be good by Easter last year. We expect the schools to be back open. Huh? All that last year. It's just like the cold. It's just like the flu. And some of y'all still believe in that knuckleheadism. I done heard a whole bunch of y'all. Well, we need to do is get community spread. Gonna have a community dead. Listening to them knuckleheads. Huh? No. They talk about listening to the scientists. Oh, you think this whole creation wasn't created with science? Huh? Who you think the first scientist was? God would have had to be the first scientist to understand how your left and right ventricle works in your heart. That one part sends the fresh blood out while the other side sucks the dusty blood in and purifies it as best it can, as long as you don't put too many impurities in the body and the blood is overflooded with that and creating you a heart attack, clogging up your arteries. You think a scientist didn't come up with that? His name was just God or Allah or whatever you want to call him. One of his 99 attributes. See, that's why science and God ain't far off from one another. They ain't far off at all. The speed of the planet around the sun. How many times the planet travels around the sun in a year? How the axis of the earth works. That's scientific and mechanical, geometrical. All the sciences are involved in that. With no spookism like some of y'all. Woo, he said, woo, and then it all came together in 7 days. Woo, woo. Nope. Not. Nope. Didn't happen like that. How you know you wasn't there? Because I'm here now. Every day that the sun rises and sets, hadn't stopped no time since I've been in the planet. Not one day that I've been on the planet that the sun didn't rise and it didn't set. And I guarantee you, if I could talk to all my ancestors back for 1 trillion years, they'd be able to tell me the same thing. Well, Hodo man has only been on the earth 1 billion. How you know? Every time they tell you how long we've been here, you find out they were lying. How a man gonna tell you how long you been here and he ain't been here but 6,000 years? Huh? How's some cat gonna tell you how long the mother and father of the planet been here and they your child? How'd they get their name? Where'd they get their name from? Who gave you your name? And how long have you had the name black man and black woman? See, a lot of y'all stuck on it. I'm not black, you don't know what you are. And when somebody who had good sense was telling you that, you ain't want to listen. Instead, you want to go down that old time slave religion. Well, good enough for them is sure good enough for me. Well, it ain't been that good enough for you. Look at your condition and look at the condition of the folks who gave it to you. Got you looking for your pie in the sky. While they got their pie on their plate. They enjoying their pie. You still, oh, one day when I die, someday when I die, it's sure gonna be better. How you know? Who came back and told you? Huh? God said the meek shall inherit the earth. I never heard of no dead folks getting no inheritance. The inheritance is given to those who are alive. Well, we gonna come back. Like them folks on The Walking Dead. If y'all start seeing some folks come back, you wouldn't stop running until you done ran around the planet and caught up with them again. Huh? Believing all them lies. Well, Jesus, when he come back, Jesus said, I go to my Father and you see me no more. See, y'all been listening to them folks telling you, y'all ain't read no scripture. I always give props to my mama, boy. And she may not agree with what I say, but I got to say this. If it wasn't for what she had me doing, I wouldn't be saying what I'm saying. See, my mama read the Bible to us every day. Every day. When I was little. Then when I got old enough to read the Bible, she made me read the Bible every day. Huh? So that I start to understand and remember what I read. And then I go to church and hear what Reverend whatchamacallit said. And I say, Mom, but that ain't what the Bible says. She said, shut up, boy, you don't know more than the preacher. But I knew what the Bible said. I might not knew more nonsense than the preacher, but I knew what the Bible said. So that when folks were saying stuff, and then I remember when I decided to become a Muslim, folks was mad at me because I became a Muslim, right? Gonna be with them Muslims. Because they ain't know their history. They ain't know that's what black folks was before they were slaves, you see. Y'all watch the movie Roots. Kunta told y'all he was a Muslim. Well, that was a movie. It was a book, too. Had Kunta in the bond. Fiddler gonna give me that plate. Oh, boy, it's just some grits. But when you read the book, let's see, where's the novel? I got the novel here somewhere. See, when I was in junior high, we had to read the novel and do a report on it. In the novel, when they gave him that plate, it said because he was a devout Muslim and it had pork on that plate, he would not eat it. Also tells you of a time when they had a drought over there near the Kembe-Balongo River in the village of Jafare. And they didn't have nothing to eat. But wild boar ran around and they wouldn't eat it because they were devout Muslims and did not eat pig or swine. Tell you that in the book. But instead, my people say, oh, that pig, I love it. I eat him from his rooty to his tooty. And if the grunt come out, if I can catch it, I'll eat that too. But when Mr. Heart Attack and Mr. Stroke and Mr. High Blood Pressure, Mr. Diabetes, Mr. start slapping you all over your body from them 999 different ailments that pig caused. If you'd have read the Bible, you'd have known that God said, of the swine, even though he be cloven-footed, but he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean unto you. Of their flesh ye shall not eat, and of their carcass ye shall not touch. The book you claim you believe in told you don't even touch the thing. The folks who made slaves out of you wrapped some skin around it, called it the pig skin, and told you, here, play with that. Hut, hut! Super Bowl time, pig skin it up. Brush your hair with it. Boar hair brush. Eat it for candy. Gelatin. Love me some Jello gelatin. Come out the pig's feet. See, a pig don't have no veins, and he got these tubes to run through his body, run off into his feet. All the poisons go into his feet, and then it jails, you see. But then these smart folks, they dehydrated that pus and poison, put some color in it, and you add your own sugar, and then you put some water in there, and it re-gels. It's a good old Jello gelatin. Eating pig pus. The original name for chicken pox is hog pox. Misdirection. Trichinosis. A disease caused by the trichina worm, thus a microorganism inside of the pig's body. Can cause arthritis and all kind of things. Can cause cancer. Microorganism. Can't see it with the naked eye. Kind of sort of like a virus, huh? Microorganism. They trying to kill us. Yeah, well, you killing yourself now because you let them give you the wrong stuff. I don't understand that when we was told we was free in 1865, and some a few years later in Texas and Arkansas, Cali, why did we hold on to all of the slave stuff? I know we didn't know nothing else, but we knew all of that didn't work out for us. And if we didn't know it then, we should very well know it now. That the slave mindset, the slave actions, the slave deeds, the whole slave process wasn't good for us. But tried and truly, we do our best to hold on to it. The same thing they did in slavery, divide and conquer. The light against the dark, the old against the young, the man against the woman. Disrupted the whole chain of things. Didn't want the man to be in charge, want that woman to be in charge because he could manipulate her better. That's what he said now. It's right here in this book. Let's Make a Slave. Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave. Show you how to do it, the whole process. You know, I read part of that to y'all a few months ago. And when you see the actions that some of us commit, well, all of us, in one form or fashion, until we realize what we're doing, we see that slave stuff was put in us, and we don't want to let it go. From the diet to the actions. Always talking about each other. Always got to gossip about each other. Always got to tell something that ain't none of your business. That's a slave mentality. Everything that the books you claim you believe in, from the Quran to the Bible, talk against. And you wonder why folks are at odds with you. Because you done been dumbed down so much that they just don't think you deserve to be on the planet. You keep committing atrocities amongst your own people, so folks feel it's okay to commit atrocities towards you. I mean, during this pandemic, there should not have been one drive-by if everybody was doing what they're supposed to do. During this pandemic, nobody should have been shot. Shouldn't have been no domestic violence. Shouldn't have been no robberies. God put a plague out here to show y'all to do better. But since y'all want to say, I ain't wearing no mask, violating my constitutional rights, yeehaw, we gonna go up here and storm the Capitol and have an insurrection. We gonna overthrow the government. The little woman say, oh, I can't breathe. Hey, I can't breathe. They shot me with some tear gas. Well, what were you doing? Well, we were storming the Capitol. Why were you storming the Capitol? It's a revolution. You had your butt at home, do what you're supposed to do. Huh? Then you got the cops out there unprepared where they got to share tear gas masks. Got to share the masks. Because they ain't have enough masks. They had enough, but they didn't tell them to bring them. Well, it's not going to be that bad. So dudes showed up unprepared when their higher-ups knew what was coming. FBI already proven that. So you got the Civil War on one side. Got the Civil War on us against us. And nobody in the middle saying, hold up, wait a minute. Stop it. Hold up. Wait. What are y'all doing, man? On both sides. Black folks, what the hell are y'all doing, man? Why y'all killing each other? Who taught you to do that? First of all, that should have been the first question that all of us should ask as the first black folks after slavery started killing one another. The first question should have been, who taught you to do that, that it was okay to do that? You see that was a throwback from slavery too. So a lot of folks like to harp on Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was just a weak brother. When you read the book by Harriet Beecher Stowe, he was just a weak brother, but he wasn't a bad brother. But that doggone Sambo, that Negro, Sambo, he was the one that when the slave master needed somebody to beat a brother, Sambo will volunteer. Oh yeah, boss, I get him. You run away, Sambo the one that will catch you for them. So a lot of y'all got some Sambo in you. Y'all just got a lust for killing black folks. Y'all better let that Sambo go. Y'all better let Sambo go. That slave mentality. Stop killing one another. Ever since I can remember, since I understood, I always heard folks talking about, black folks, what we need to come together. Yeah. What's the motivation? Just coming together for the sake of coming together? In order to come together, you got to get your mind right, man. Or Missy. Quit being so messy. Involving yourself in stuff that is none of your business. Or creating situations to create turmoil. to make the turmoil manifest and spread abroad. Disrespecting your parents. Disrespecting your children. Disrespecting your family and not minding your own business. Going out on a rampage. Getting blew up out of your mind. Just blew out. And think it's okay. To give you that manufactured courage that you don't necessarily have. So you can go out there and pop somebody. Rob somebody. Disrespect somebody. Likewise, on the flip side, you yeehaw, boys and gals. Y'all trying to overthrow your own folks. See, I'm going to be truthful with you. There's no excuse for no white people in America being poor. None. So y'all have no reason to hate us. Because there's no excuse for y'all being poor. This country belongs to y'all. Even though we did most of the work. But y'all took it, you see. Y'all took the country for yourselves and yours. Your ancestors did. Your ancestors created a public education so that y'all would always be able to be educated. Because it wasn't for us. So that y'all get a good education. But instead of y'all getting a good education, from the beginning, y'all going there sniffing glue. In the bathroom passing out pills like you passing out candy. But that's part of your heritage too, you see. See, a lot of y'all don't remember the total history of America. See, we was kidnapped victims. The natives was already here. The Europeans were a couple different kinds of people. You had those who came over here to seek their fortune, make some loot. You had some who were released from the mental institution because they were being overcrowded in Europe. And they just put them on the boat and sent them over here. And they just let them go. Then you had those who were murderers and criminals. And they wanted to clean up their society in Europe. They put them on the boat too and sent them over here. So you had the cats who had the mindset that they should be in charge. They took charge. They had the criminal element who wanted to take some stuff. And you had those who were mentally deranged. And all of those eventually started to breed with one another. And some of y'all who are mentally deficient and want to do stupid stuff, you better check your descendants. There's some of y'all cats who's up there in the mountains, you know y'all was doing all that inbreeding stuff on purpose. See, some of us had to do it because we didn't have no choice. We didn't know what we used to do. They put a bag over our head and use a breeder. That's where the word MF came from. They had cats doing their own mamas. Yeah. Amongst us. Whole bunch of stuff had us doing. Along with them raping our women and raping our men too. So this country has a history of malcreants or miscreants or whatever you want to call them. But at the same time, it has a history of a illustrious brain power. Look at Carter G. Woodson. Look at George Washington. Regardless that he had slaves and stuff, but the stuff that he wrote down was brilliant. That Constitution that they wrote was not no just put together or anything. It actually has some credence if you read it and check it out. But because folks don't believe in their religion, they don't believe in the Constitution, they don't believe in nothing. How you going to say that? Look at America. Church folks sit up in the church and talk about each other's clothes. Get home and talk about how sister such and such was doing when you get home. Huh? Dude sitting up there on Sunday biding the time till he can get back and watch the football game. Preacher too. And the deacons too. Huh? Preacher talking about sister such and such, him and Dee. I ain't just imagined it. I heard it. I was a little boy. I was listening to all kind of stuff. I just didn't say nothing because I listened. Whatever you was looking for. I wasn't looking for Jack. It was there to see. Yeah, Rev such and such was looking good today, wasn't it? Sure was, Deke. That's why I had to get me an extra hug and hold it extra tight. Huh. Preacher having weed parties at his house every weekend for the teenagers so he can get the teenage girls. Get the 15, 14, 16-year-old girls. That's just the church I was at. What about yours? Huh? I remember me and my father being out at the graveyard, cleaning the graveyard one time. Preacher came out there with a bottle of whiskey to give my old man a shot. Huh? Graveyard was right up the hill from the church down south. Had a little spring coming down through the rocks. And they had this little cup or a jar or something hanging out there. And they could dip the water, get them a sip. So they used the little jug, and put a little of that water in there for some chasers. See, the Hodo Show and the Other Viewpoint ain't just talking about politics. I see a lot of this stuff I've seen personally, you see. Got aunts and uncles and cousins and, we got family like all of us do. We see stuff. As children, we had the most insight when we be at church. Until the grown folks beat the inside out of us. I sung in the choir. So we get to see the whole congregation from behind the preacher, including the preacher. Got a chance to see what folks really was doing. Got a chance to see the cats when you're marching up the steps to get up in the choir stand, coming from the basement, and the preacher family duck out the door had a fifth Wild Irish Rose and chug-a-lug it down before they get in the choir stand. And Kassang, after that rose got up in him, was driving the church crazy. Then I had to contend with the cats who wanted to fight me every week because I ain't live in that neighborhood. Because we came from a deeper west. We're still on the east side, but a little deeper west. Want to fight because I don't live in their neighborhood, because all of them grew up together, Try to put brother head in the toilet. Happily, I'm here to say, somebody else got a good flushing. Huh? Every week, just trying to mess with a brother. All of this in the midst of praising the Lord. Because of slave mentality. As I was saying, the children had insight up in the choir. They'd see stuff. And you see when the folks faking. Had this one sister that every time it was a cat doing a solo who was halfway good looking, that's when she got happy. I mean, she shouted, y'all called it get happy, but she, did her shouting thing so she could run up to the front and hug the visiting singer. the young, good-looking singers. The regular old folks would be there all the time with the old dude or something. She ain't jump up for them. Whenever it's a young cat, and then, we like first, second grade, and you hear the rumblings in the choir. Oh, here she go again. Even the children saw it. But then when you get home, your parents say, you was up there talking in that choir stand, you're going to beat you then, want to beat the inside out of you. Because you was seeing what was really going on. Got the gay piano players and all this stuff. The so-called musician, the gay piano or the organ player. But it was okay. Didn't go along with the so-called scripture they said they believed in. But it was okay for them. And just pass it on down. But then you want to call the folks who can see what's really going on heathens, huh? The heathens was the ones that was there. They was the ones doing all of the stuff. The folks who wanted to get away from them, they was just trying to do, keep it real. Huh? Let me remind you that our sponsor is RCE Notary. RCE Notary. For your notary needs. You need that paper, that document with the stamp on it so you can prove it's legit. RCE Notary. RCE Notary. Here in Michigan. Southeast Michigan, Detroit, Monroe, Wayne County, Bottom Pass, Oakland County, Hazel Park. Give us a call. Or even Grosse Pointe. RCE Notary. Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Give them a call at 248-861-9212. That's 248-861-9212. One more time, 248-861-9212. RCE Notary for your notary needs. All right. Again, you're watching the Hodo Show and the Other Viewpoint, and I am your brother, there is no other. I'm Hodo. Who are you? Now, if you want to lock in on some of this I've been talking about, if you have something you want to tell a story about, you can give us a call here, 313-334-5909. That's 313-334-5909, and you can lock in. But if you don't, we'll keep it moving, All right. Let's get into some good stuff now. As per usual, I want to remind you that we're going to give you some good news about a black man every week. Give you some black man news because you can watch the so-called mainstream media on a daily basis for the next year. And if you see 2 stories in that same year of something positive about a black man, you're lucky. Anywhere in America. Unless, of course, it's a black news station. And it ain't very many of those. All right. Calendly, CEO Tope Awatana, the owner of the scheduling app, just raised $350 million and now is valued at over $3 billion. Calendly is a black-owned scheduling app designed to make the process of finding meeting times easy. Currently, about 10 million people use the platform on a monthly basis. Today, Calendly announced that they have closed a $350 million investment, which now values the company at more than $3 billion. Overview Venture Partners, along with the new investor Iconic Capital, were part of the investment. Tope Atua founded Candidly in 2013. Since then, the Atlanta-based company has been very popular and very profitable. Last year, the company made about $70 million in subscriptions and review revenues, and is projecting revenues will get to $1 billion in the next within the near future. The investment will be used to provide liquidity for early shareholders and employees, as well as continue product innovation, according to the announcement. The software startup also added 2 new senior executives at the end of 2020 to grow its employees and revenue. Our profitable, unique, profit-led growth model has led to Candidly becoming the most used, most integrated, most loved scheduling platform for individuals and large enterprise alike, says CEO Tope Awantana. While we consider outside investment an unnecessary distraction, we made the decision to partner with Overview and Iconic because we wanted to grow. And this is a picture of our brother, Tope Awatana, the CEO of Candidly. He's one of our stories on a positive story for a black man. Today, got one more good one for you. This one is about an entrepreneur who gives a new vehicle to a single mom of 4 after her car was stolen. Early Walker, the owner of the black-owned tow truck company in Chicago called W&W Towing, recently joined Bishop Larry Trotter, lawyers from the Valaric Law Group, and other volunteers to present 40-year-old single mother of 4 with a new vehicle. Her name is Lakeisha Sims, and she's from Chicago and had been forced to spend over $400 a month in ride-sharing trips and to go to and from work. And because of the stress, she even had a miscarriage. Walker, who is well known as being a philanthropist, received a letter January 23rd from Lashikala Sims of Chicago's West Side. Sims mentioned in her letter that less than a year ago, her car was stolen from her place of employment. At that time, she had just learned that she was pregnant, carrying her 5th child. However, just days later, she miscarried the child. Doctors confirmed that her stress played a significant role in her misfortune. Sims attributes the stress to the horrifying challenges of not having transportation. Sims also detailed the challenges that she had to endure concerning her children in lieu of not having a car. Her 17-year-old daughter is a graduating senior and has been accepted at a state university college, and Sims has not been able to drive her daughter to school. The financial strain on Sims has been quite evident. She works a minimum wage job and finds it difficult to provide food, clothing, and shelter for her children. The challenge of not having a vehicle has added nearly $400 per month to her household budget via round-trip ride shares to work, all of which prevented her from being able to purchase Christmas gifts for her children in 2020. Walker decided to surprise Sims and her children during a prearranged trip to Sweet Holy Spirit Church in Chicago. She was told that she was one of the finalists for the vehicle, all of whom will be interviewed in person at the church. She had also been told that a winner will be selected later in the week. None of this was true, but was necessary to get her and her children to come to the surprise event. Sims arrived at the interview at 9 a.m. and it ended around 10 a.m. Early Walker and Bishop Trotter then walked her to the main entrance of the church, where she noticed a car with a big red bow being lowered from the back of a flatbed tow truck. She was told that the car was hers, and when she opened the trunk of the vehicle, she found a mass amount of Christmas gifts that had been placed there for her 3 younger children. Sims was extremely surprised, emotional, and thankful at the same time. She was also informed that a local firm, the Valaric Law Group, has partnered with Walker and will be providing significant educational assistance for her 17-year-old daughter, who graduates from high school this year. This was the icing on the cake for the Sims family. So again, this brother and this sister, Mr. Walker, made it possible that Miss Sims got her new car. Yep. Another positive story on a black man. Okay? Now let me give you this one. The Brown Beauty Co-op brings together retailers carrying over 100 black-owned brands. This is in Washington, D.C. In the wake of corporations committing to invest in black-owned brands, the Brown Beauty Co-op isn't sitting still. The Washington, D.C.-based beauty cooperative, which is the premier destination for black and brown beauty brands, will host an unprecedented retail workshop titled The Brand and the Beauty. The workshop will cater to black and brown product owners, manufacturers, and sellers who are interested in breaking into retail and want to get insider information on how to design their brand pitch to get on the shelves. It's 2021, and there's no better time to invest in black-owned brands, black-owned retailers, and our communities, said Amaya Smith, co-founder of the Brown Beauty Co-op. We're excited that this workshop allows us to create our own table rather than waiting to be given a seat in a room where so few of us sit. There's no workshop like this, said Kimberly Smith, the co-founder of Brown Beauty Co-op. Entrepreneurs will get here from brand strategists on how to craft a brand story, protect their brands, and scale their businesses. But what's most exciting is they will hear from real buyers, which happen to be some of the top black-owned retailers, to get feedback on what they're looking for. You will not want to miss this. So it lets you know who will be there, the Brown Betty Co-op, what will be there, the Brand and Beauty Online Workshop, and when will it be? February 7th, 2021 from 12 to 5 p.m. And you can register online at rebrand.ly/brand beautiful. Again, if you're interested, you can, because this is an online event, you can register online at rebrand.ly/brand beautiful. If you're interested in that. And I think that's a good thing. See, we're not going to just talk about the stuff that is crazy going on in America. We can also talk about the progressives, you see. as our topic for tonight has been, the old isn't new, but the new could be better. So there are some that are doing their best to make it better. As this one, you have a Baltimore church established by slave owners and creates a reparations fund. The Memorial Church commits $500,000 to the fund over the next 5 years. The Baltimore Episcopal Church, founded by slaveholders in the 1860s, said it would spend $500,000 over the next 5 years to establish a fund intended as reparations for slavery. Members of the Memorial Episcopal Church in Bolton Hill voted Sunday to set aside $100,000 to donate in the next year to community organizations doing what it termed just-centered work, the Baltimore Sun reported Friday. The fund is targeting race-based inequalities that have proliferated for generations in the church and in the community at large. The church advisory group will choose beneficiaries whose work focuses on issues of housing, education, environmental justice, and civic engagement. The Reverend Kobe Little, president of the Baltimore chapter of the NAACP, applauded the effort. It's a welcome and a positive step because it's an acknowledgement of an effort to correct a long lingering wrongs, Little said. I think it's a great conversation starter for the church community at large about how the church can play a leadership role in this movement, in this country, and in the world about eliminating structural inequities. The decision makes Memorial the first parish in the Episcopal Diocese of Maryland and among the first religious institutions in the state to establish a fund dedicated to reparations for slavery. Several Episcopal dioceses, including ones in New York and Texas, have launched reparations programs within the past 2 years. The Diocese of Texas has allotted $13 million towards long-term programs aimed at benefiting blacks. Memorial will take half the funding from its endowment and half from its operating budget and will provide $100,000 each year for the next 5 years, said Reverend Gray Magino. The parish has been focusing on uncovering the truth of our past, Magino said. The church's rector said, "We've been studying the truth and the true impact that Memorial inflicted on our neighbors through housing, segregation, and redlining, through disenfranchisement of our neighbors, of black voters, and through inequity in schools and youth programs here in Boston." Maggiano said that we need to lead the members of the vestry or government board and other parishioners in reviewing old vestry notes, old articles from the Baltimore Sun and the Afro-American newspapers, and conducting interviews with longtime church neighbors. Among findings was that the church had a long-serving rector, William Meade Dame, was a devout segregationist who presided over the dedication ceremonies at two of Baltimore's long-standing Confederate monuments that church leaders fought well into the 1950s to prevent blacks from joining. All right, this is a picture of the church in Baltimore. And I think they're doing a good thing, putting forth money for reparations because of some of the things that their prior membership and leadership did. Very good thing. And as I told you at the beginning of the program, you have a guy, a black guy, African American, who's running against Gretchen Whitmer for governor. He just happens to be a Republican. And I'm not going to really go through this at this time because I would like to interview Mr. Chenge if he's interested. Austin Chenge is his name. He's a 35-year-old businessman, Army veteran from Grand Rapids, who, like some governors, other critics call her a dictator. He calls Gretchen Whitmer a dictator. And I'd like to know why. And I did take a quick look at his website. So any of you out there who know Austin Chenge, let him know that Hodo would like to interview him on the Hodo Show and the Other Viewpoint. And you could set it up and have him give me a call so we can talk to one another. And have him call me on my business line at 313-685-6777, 313-685-6777. Leave me a message if I don't pick up. And I'll get back to him as soon as possible. But I would really like to interview this guy, just like I would like to interview Anthony Adams, who's running for mayor of Detroit against Mike Duggan. And for those of you who don't know, Anthony Adams was the deputy mayor to former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. But I must add this caveat. During the time that Mr. Kilpatrick was in office, you never heard anything provocative against Anthony Adams. Never heard about him getting caught up in anything. And the few times that I saw him, he and I always were congenial with one another. Never had any problems with Anthony Adams myself personally. But I do want to give him a fair interview like this other guy. I want to give him a fair interview. And anybody else who'd like to get interviewed on the Hodo Show and the Other Viewpoint, because I'm tired of talking to myself. Well, I'm talking to y'all, but I'm tired of doing all this talking by myself. You can give me a call and set up an interview again at 313-685-6777. Some of you out there who used to set up guests for me who were politicians and entertainers and so forth, you still have my number, still the same number, over 20 years, 313-685-6777. I have talked to Professor Griff from Public Enemy. He has consented to do an interview. And I wanted to make sure the audience was built up because he actually consented a few months back. I wanted to make sure the audience was built up before I brought him on. And when he comes on, I want you guys to call in and talk to him. I don't want you to just lay dormant in the cut. You can call in and talk to him. And so with that said, it's about time for me to do the walk and walk into the other room, walk out of here, walk out the studio. And so, as per usual, got to remind you that pride goes before destruction. So please, don't lose your pride. And when I say don't lose your pride, I mean that part of you that gives you dignity, that gives you the motivation to make sure that you don't participate in stupidity. Stuff that will make you look bad, not only to yourself, but to your family, friends, and our people in general. So that we won't be doing stupid stuff. So don't lose that pride, that stick-to-itiveness to make you do the right thing. Because it ain't no trouble, baby bubble. Just say it loud. And I mean real loud. I'm black and I'm proud. And do something to be proud of. But if by chance you're not black, but you really are because you came out of us. But if by chance you're not black and you're doing something of good, you can be proud too. There's nothing wrong with that. So for the Hodo Show and the other viewpoint. I am your brother, if there is no other. I'm Hodo. Who are you? Catch you next week, 8 p.m. Make sure you lock us in, and we'll be right here waiting on you. Peace.
Tuned in to WGOD on the 7-day station, beholding the manifestation. It's time to renew your mind and rise.
This is the Hodo Show and the other viewpoint, and I am your brother, if there is no other. I'm Hodo. Who are you? Calling, you on the air? Can you handle it? I don't think you really want to know. I'll tell you later. Caller, you on the air? Thank you, little brother. Not only is the beat on time, but it also has something for your mind. Because we've been waiting to get together for so long, but we just couldn't seem to find the right song to come together on. Caller, you on the air?
We just a step to the right. Come on, we just a step to the left. Yeah, we just say now break it down. We just say now rise it up. Now rise. Now rise.
Here's another hot joke for the 004. Legion!
All my queens, put your hands in the air. All my kings, put your hands in the air. All my queens, put your hands in the air. All my kings, put your hands in the air. Now walk with me.
The hot joint for the 004. Legion!
We just a step to the left. Come on, we just a step to the right. Come on, we just say now break it down. Come on, we just say now rise it up. Rise. Now rise. Get up. Get up. Get up. Now rise, you body. Are you still broke? Get up! Radio! What a brother know. Radio! What a brother know. What a brother know. Now that's your butt. Are you still broke? It's time to rise. 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 U-N-I-T-Y. Now that's your butt.